Riley, I don't know what the inception was. I don't know what started this. What instigated this whole thing between you and Simone Biles? Did she start something? Did you say something? I have no idea where it started. I know that it ended where it should have. She never should have gone after you, especially knowing that just a few years ago, she was talking about people body shaming her and about men versus women and everything else. How did this thing start this time?
It was really out of the blue, out of thin air is where this started.
Do you think she meant the apology? Do you think she realizes how dumb that was to have that take?
That's the question I've been asking myself. Had this been 2 years prior, let's say in 2022, for example, would she have issued this apology?
What did you do to cheat to get past me on TikTok? Now, let's be honest, Gaines. You were killing me, and then I raised my game, and we got to 1 million before you, and I was like, nah, got 1 million. And then I looked over, and you gained 100,000 in like a day. Now you're leading me again. What the hell happened? Is it the Simone Biles thing, or did you cheat?
No, I called 100,000 of my closest friends and told them to go follow me on TikTok. I said, the stakes are very, very high. You don't understand. I have to beat Joe Pags to 1.1 million.
They swatted him. They condemned him on social media. They did everything they could to silence him. It didn't work.
Your show's a big hit. It's a big success. You do fantastically. Your ratings are great, and we're very proud of you.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
I don't know if I'm happy or sad about it, but the whole feud seems to be, I think the hatchet is being buried between Simone Biles and Riley Gaines. Gladly, I mean, Biles or her PR firm decided we're probably in the wrong here, we should stop. To that end, we've got our good friend Riley Gaines on, of course, 12-time All-American swimmer, an amazing advocate for girls and women in sports, and just a great friend of mine. Riley, it's so good to have you back. How are you?
I am fantastic, Joe, and I just love coming on with you. One of the most real, authentic people in the space, bar none. So very, very excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I was so glad that you could make some time. I know how busy you are. I got to ask you, though, what did you do to cheat to get past me on TikTok? Now, let's be honest, Gaines. You were killing me, and then I raised my game, and we got to 1 million before you, and I was like, nah, got 1 million. And then I looked over, and you gained 100,000 in like a day. Now you're leading me again. What the hell happened? Is it the Simone Biles thing, or did you cheat?
No, I called 100,000 of my closest friends and told them to go follow me on TikTok. I said, the stakes are very, very high. You don't understand. I have to beat Joe Pags to 1.1 million. No, really, it is the Simone Biles stuff, which is almost hilarious how ironic it is, how much this has backfired on Simone Biles.
Right.
All of her public shaming and personal attacks she threw my way, it really only gave me credibility, and it really only gave me a bigger platform. So that's what we've seen kind of across the board over these past 5 or so years. But now people, the general public, is much more willing to throw their support behind someone like me for saying the controversial thing that men cannot become women and vice versa. But on TikTok and Instagram, for that matter, I gained 100,000 plus followers following the Simone Biles stuff just in 2-3 days. Crazy.
Well, you deserve that and 1 billion more. Go check out her podcast. It's Games for Girls on Outkick. Games for Girls podcast on Outkick. Follow Riley anywhere that she happens to be. Riley, I don't know what the inception was. I don't know what started this. What instigated this whole thing between you and Simone Biles? Did she start something? Did you say something? I have no idea where it started. I know that it ended where it should have. She never should have gone after you, especially knowing that just a few years ago, she was talking about people body shaming her and about men versus women and everything else. How did this thing start this time?
It was really out of the blue, out of thin air is where this started. I'll take you back just a week or two ago at this point. There were 5 states, Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, California, and Maine, that allowed boys or teams with a boy leading the team to win state championships or state qualifying spots or podium spots from rightful deserving girls.
Right.
Of course, like I have done for 3 years, Joe, I was very quick to call this out on X. Specifically, I was highlighting the story in Minnesota, where a boy led his high school girls softball team to a state championship. Pitching 5 consecutive games, 35 consecutive innings, 21 of those being consecutive shutout innings, only allowing 2 runs across the stretch of these 5 games. I publicly mentioned, again, on the public forum that is X, that this was crazy. This is wrong. It's harmful for women to allow this, to which that is when Simone Biles decided to insert herself into this debate. And what has been made very clear since is she has done this on the wrong side of the debate. She didn't even really like in her initial tweet that she put out. It wasn't even really like her necessarily defending the trans community, if you will. It
Right.
was more so a total, public humiliation ritual, at least attempted public humiliation ritual of me, which did not bode very well for her, Joe.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I don't understand why she injected herself at all. As you said, she had tweets from years ago that actually talked about this very topic and how she couldn't compete with the guys. We wouldn't know her name, as I think you said very, very wisely. Had she competed against the guys, women's gymnasts cannot do what men's gymnasts do. That's why there are different, compulsory activities that they have to do. But then she decided to call you manly or something, or something like, pick on somebody your own size like a man. And I actually saw you with my friend Will Kane. I was on his show about a month ago. Will is about the same height as I am, and he towered on you. So the whole idea that you can be manly in any way, shape, or form is dumb. And if it's about your musculature when you were competitively swimming, she is way more muscular than most girls that you'll see. Simone Biles is. What do you think what do you think her thought process was? Getting into her mind is going to be hard, but what was the impetus, do you think, for her to say, Riley, leave people alone, as she herself has been bullied for having muscles as a girl? I don't get it.
I think she's just for so long lived in this bubble where she again believed this would be well received. She thought she would kind of get a high five from all of her elitist friends and maybe the general public, but that is again not at all what we have seen. I think she had her bubble popped actually this past weekend.
Yes.
I think she realized that what she said was totally misguided. It was not well received. We're not living in 2020 anymore, Joe. We are living in 2025. Those comments she made about me, saying that the tweet said, bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a man. First of all, Joe, I'm 5'5". Like that's not overly tall for a woman, I don't think. Maybe it's a little taller than average, but and I guess if you're Simone Biles, anyone is a giant when you're standing at a whopping 4'8". But I'm 5'5", 130, 135 pounds. Very muscular, as you said, at least I once was when I was competing. But I would have imagined that if anyone would understand that and the necessity of a muscular body, especially when you're playing a sport, how that body serves a purpose, and that purpose is to succeed, to be the best that you can be in your sport. If anyone would have understood that, I would have imagined it would be Simone Biles. She's been a part of several different body positivity campaigns.
Right.
She's been under severe scrutiny in the past because of her body, her muscular stature. And I think that's what really did it for people. Even if you call yourself a Democrat, even if you agree that men should be in women's sports, whatever the position there is, I don't think it sat very well when you have a woman, again, who has built part of her platform. Of course, her platform has been built on her illustrious career, her success. But beyond that, she's partnered with brands like Athleta, with other athletic wear brands and companies because of her stance on the body positivity things.
Right.
It doesn't sit well with people when you are such a hypocrite and do it in such a venomous way like Simone Biles did. To me, again, to be very clear, all of this scrutiny that I face, regardless if it's from Simone, whoever it is, over the past 3 years, is for simply saying that there are two sexes and that you can't change your sex and that each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, of privacy, and of safety. That is it. It's like the least controversial take on the entire planet. I hold much more controversial takes. Like, I hate mashed potatoes, Joe. Like, I would imagine that to be more controversial than the idea, the factual assertion that men cannot become women.
This is why we get along, because I don't like mashed potatoes either. It's Riley Gaines. She's the host of Gaines for Girls podcast over on Outkick. I'll eat carbs, so I stay away from anything that's a carb like that. Also, women's advocate, obviously. She is the vice chair of Athletes for America. Got a great book out called Swimming Against the Current. And I understand you've got a big announcement coming this weekend. I'm not going to say what it is. Big surprise for those who are out there. Make sure that you follow Riley over on social media. Make sure that you check out her podcast. And if she's anywhere near you, like she'll be in Dallas this weekend, make sure you go and check out where she's speaking. She's amazing, everything that you do. Let me finish up with Simone Biles this way. She disagrees with Serena and Venus Williams. She disagrees with Martina Navratilova. In her back and forth with you, she did. She's now backed off of that. Disagrees with Caitlyn Jenner. Disagrees with most anybody who has ever been an athlete at a high level, because those people, you included, a 12-time All-American, those people, you guys know better than anybody that you just can't compete on an equal level playing field with somebody of the opposite gender. It's just not fair, and it won't be fair. I'm 58 years old, and I work out a lot, but I'm nowhere near the athlete that you are, and you will always be. But I could kick your ass picking up anything that's heavy. I just can't. That's a fact. So why she even went there doesn't make sense to me. I know that you accepted her apology, so let's finish on this. Do you think that she really meant it, or did she see the backlash from social? Millions and millions of people rallied behind you, even people that didn't know who you were before, and that's a very few people. And she was such a star. People turned on her quickly. Do you think she meant the apology? Do you think she realizes how dumb that was to have that take?
That's the question I've been asking myself. Had this been 2 years prior, let's say in 2022, for example, would she have issued this apology, still putting out those same initial 2 tweets? I don't think so. If you compare the tone of her apology to the 2 tweets that she put out on Friday, again, the ones filled with personal attacks aimed at me, it is a totally different tone. I'm not here to speculate. I think there's enough people doing that, saying that this was ChatGPT or a PR firm, whatever the situation is. And I certainly I say this apology is half-hearted, to say the least. But I accept it. I accept it graciously for one reason, really. Actually 2 reasons. Number one, it never really hurt my feelings, any of the things she said. To be totally honest with you, Joe, I'm very secure
because they were ridiculous. They were dumb, what she said. I mean,
they're ridiculous. I'm very secure with myself. Unlike the transgender community, I don't need anyone to affirm me. I have my identity in Christ. Okay, so I feel like I know I'm on the right side of history. I'm very happily married for over 3 years. If Simone Biles wants to call me a man, maybe insinuating my husband is gay, that would be quite the turn for Pride Month. It just didn't hurt my feelings. That's the silliest thing ever. So I accept her apology on behalf of the pretty shameful remarks. But I also wanted to extend an invitation to her, if you will, because she goes on in her apology to say, look, I wasn't advocating for men and women's sports, which now she is seeing the severe. If she thought the backlash from common sense Americans was bad over the weekend, oh my gosh, you should go over to Blue Sky, Joe, and see what is being said about her over there from the left, people on the left, saying that she is a fascist apologist now. She's an anti-trans, transphobe. She's getting it from all angles at this point. So there's a part of me that almost feels bad for her, truthfully. But I wanted to extend an invitation to her to join the fight, to support a future where athletes can compete fairly, where athletes can call themselves champions, little girls who have dreams to succeed and to achieve. I'm sure just like Simone did when she was younger, I would happily welcome her to link arms, to stand proudly together, to call out people like the NCAA. And again, this is a woman who has previously heroically called out the sexual abuse that she and hundreds of other female gymnasts faced at the hands of one predatory man, that man being Larry Nassar. I just can't for the life of me truly think that she believes what she put out on Friday. So I'm extending that invitation to her, and partially why I responded as graciously as I tried to respond.
Have her on the podcast, Games for Girls podcast on Outkick. Have her on there. Wouldn't that be amazing? I had Mark Wayne Mullen on earlier today. I don't know if you know Mark Wayne Mullen, a senator from Oklahoma. Remember, he's the guy that stood up and said, hey, Sean O'Brien, let's fight right now on the Senate floor. And they're now very good friends. They get along just fine. I think the president mediated that. But that would be amazing. Would you sit down with Simone Biles and do something on camera?
I would love it. I would love it. But oftentimes, I get that comment a lot. You know, people say, well, would you talk to Will Thomas or Leah Thomas, the boy that competed with us? Yeah. Look, that's not me you need to be asking that to. It's oftentimes what we've seen over the past, really on this debate, a lot of the cultural chaos. Those who know they're on the wrong side, number one, either they're ashamed of themselves to the point where they wear masks in public, like all these rioters. They know they're on the wrong side of history. They're ashamed to show their face. Okay, they're not convicted enough to stand by what they're actually doing, the words they're saying, the crimes they're committing. Number one, but two, because there is no foundation of Simone Biles' argument other than the venomous attacks, personal attacks for that matter,
Right.
they're oftentimes unwilling to engage in civil discourse because they have nothing on their side. Simone, in her original tweets she put out, she doesn't have science on her side, common sense, logic, reasoning. She certainly doesn't have the general public on her side. But nonetheless, I would welcome the opportunity to
Yeah.
discuss or be able to talk about this privately or publicly, for that matter.
Well, I think it would be
Maybe
amazing because as you go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said maybe you can moderate it. You'd be a good
Oh,
moderator.
I would love to do that. Absolutely. Anytime you need anything from me, you know this. Riley, you know this for 5 years now. Anything you need from me, I do it. I would be a very good moderator with that, although, obviously I'm on your side. But I think that she would have to be smart and come to your side. What I was going to say is it's a 70-30, if not 75-25, or even 80-20 issue now. And it's a sea change from when you and I first met and started talking about this stuff. Back then, it almost felt like it was 50-50. But the American people have spoken. They made it very clear. In bringing Donald Trump in and in supporting you like they do, we know this issue is no longer even close to being 50-50. It's way more for those who are against boys and men, competing. Look, you've said this openly, and I want you to reiterate this if you don't mind. You don't care if Will Thomas wants to live as Leah Thomas. You don't care that Bruce Jenner is now Caitlyn Jenner. That doesn't bother you because you're a freedom and liberty person like I am. Your problem is, as is mine with 5 daughters that I have at home, the problem is this isn't fair. You're taking away opportunities. You've got a boy shutting out the national championship team in softball. It makes no sense. You've got a boy in California winning everything in track and field. It's just not fair. It's not about you caring how people dress and live and identify, right?
I couldn't actually care less at what people are doing
Right.
behind closed doors. That's the beauty of America is you get to do those things. Okay, sure, I might get to call you stupid for it, but you do get to do it. There are some pretty grotesque things that I could share with you, details I could share with you about Will Thomas and what he does in his personal life. I've never talked about that publicly because, again, it doesn't really matter. I can't support it necessarily as a Christian, but nonetheless, do that. You get to do that. It's America. That's what makes this country so amazing. That's why we
Right.
have all of the people in LA rioting because they recognize how amazing it is, all the while, ironically enough, burning our flag. It doesn't make much sense. Anyways, all of that to say, my problem, I draw the line when, number one, you're infringing on children. Okay.
Yes.
Number one, you're infringing on my rights, or number three, it's costing me my taxpayer dollars. So long as you are a consenting adult, you are of age, and it's not costing me money, and it's legal, of course, then by all means, do what you want to do. That's what makes America so great.
It's Riley Gaines. Go get her book. It's called Swimming Against the Current. She hosts the Gaines for Girls podcast on Outkick. Go and check that out as often as you can. Amazing young American superstar athletically, and certainly a superstar now on the speaking tour and advocating for girls and women. What do you make of somebody like Gavin Newsom, who sits down with our friend Charlie Kirk and has a conversation where he lies? Either he's lying about what he said before, or he's lying with Charlie Kirk and says, I think it's about fairness and boys and men should not compete against girls and women. And then he goes out and advocates for parents not to be informed that somebody is transitioning in middle school or in high school. Or he advocates for A.B. Hernandez, who's out there beating everybody in the track and field. But he'll sit down, I guess he wants to win an election, and lie to the face of Charlie Kirk and to you and me who watched it. Yeah, I'm not for that. I think it's unfair. What do you make of a guy like that?
Well, I think Gavin Newsom is a weak-kneed, spineless, morally bankrupt coward, Joe, to be totally honest.
But how do you really feel about Gavin Newsom?
I know. I've never been very good at mincing my words, unfortunately. Look, Gavin Newsom, as you just described in an episode with Charlie Kirk, he sits down, he says, yeah, the issue of men and women's sports is deeply unfair. Not just unfair, it's deeply unfair. He then goes on to say not unfair enough for him to actually do something about it because he describes himself as a compassionate human being who possesses empathy for those in those positions. But I think this is telling. Even just 2 days ago, when Gavin Newsom is suing Donald Trump, the Trump administration, the Department of Justice over what's going on in LA, how the National Guard is getting involved, he sneakily snuck in there a little part about also suing because of the federal government getting involved in the state of California on the issue of allowing boys in women's sports, saying it's unfair, it's wrong, it's harmful for Donald Trump, his administration, to withhold federal funds when it's actually the boys who are the victims here. He did that very quietly. You didn't hear that Gavin Newsom was suing Donald Trump over this. It's because he is a fence sitter. He sits on the fence. He winks at both sides of the aisle. People in California have known this to be true for a while, I would say, at least conservatives in California who are now all leaving, coming to my home state, your home state of Tennessee and Texas. Yeah. Stop it. We don't want you here. Actually, I'm just kidding.
If you come, don't vote the way you voted that ruined California. Don't do that.
That's it. We Tennessee is and Texas too. It's a bastion of freedom.
Yeah, but so Riley, you just broke news right here on the podcast. I do news and information for a living. I've done it for 36 years. I did not know that he slipped that in there. You're telling me where he's suing Trump to try to stop the federalization of National Guard or the mobilization of the Marines to bring peace and tranquility to the people of LA. He slipped something in there about boys and men and women and girls sports. What? Really?
That's right. Let me read it to you. I have it right here.
Please.
So he says here, so in addition to declaring war on LA and the Trump administration, Gavin Newsom also sued the federal government yesterday, which at this point is 2 days ago, to demand inclusion of males in girls sports. The lawsuit claims banning boys from girls sports causes serious harm to the athletes, the students who identify as transgender, while completely ignoring the far greater harm suffered by women when men intrude on their bathrooms, locker rooms, and sporting competitions. Again, he did that quietly. And you have to ask yourself, why did he do it quietly? Either number one, he doesn't believe it, or number two, he doesn't want, which I think this is the case, or maybe it's a combination of the two options here. He doesn't want the public to know. He doesn't want Californians to know, or broader than that, he doesn't want Americans to know, because what he has made very clear over the past few months is he is desperately angling at a 2028 presidential run. But you look at his track record, and this is the point I was getting to. The people of California have known this because they have lived it. They have lived his destructive, discriminatory, harmful policies. But people across the nation, some may see Gavin Newsom as the slimy car salesman that he portrays himself to be. He's very charming. He's relatively good looking. He's very tall. He's got the hair. Yeah, he's a charming guy by nature, but understand there is nothing moderate about Gavin Newsom. He is as radical as they come. Actually, I don't think there's such thing as a moderate elected Democrat at all anymore. Even someone like Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, who again, people of Kentucky, they have a Republican supermajority in the House and Senate in the state. They've got 2 Republican senators as it stands now. You wouldn't imagine Kentucky would vote for a Democrat governor, but Andy Beshear appears to be very moderate. He votes in lockstep. Everything that he does is the same as Gavin Newsom. There's no such thing as a moderate Democrat anymore. They just become better at masking it.
It is Riley Gaines. She's the host of the great Gaines for Girls podcast on Outkick. Go and check that out. How often does that drop, Riley? Is that a few times a week, or is it every day? What is that?
2 times a week. We've got episodes every Wednesday, and then sometimes we have surprise episodes we drop in. So I know, let's say, for example, next week, I will release an episode on Monday talking about the news that I will be sharing on Saturday in Dallas, which hopefully, Joe, you are there. I get to talk with you about it as well.
I'm going to try to do that, yes.
Which would be fantastic. And so I'll drop an episode on Monday about that. And then we've got episodes every Wednesday. It's great. We just yesterday talked to Senator Daines. We've had several U.S. Olympians on talking about the Simone Biles situation. Awesome stuff we're doing over there. And it's fun to be on the other side of it. It's hard. You've got a hard job, Joe. I'll tell you.
Well, I do 3 hours a day. I do 3 hours a day and decided to do a podcast 3 days a week as well. There's something wrong with me, but I got to tell you, you are such a rising star. When I've watched you go from in the pool, and I don't think you did any media at all. You're going to be a dentist, to what you're doing now. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I just love your talent. I love your voice. I love your backbone. And thank you for the nice words from me. The Games for Girls podcast is on Outkick. Go to outkick.com. Go check it out there. Follow Riley everywhere for sure. I want to go back to when you were in the pool, and I actually want to go back further than that, because as I just said, you were going to be a dentist. You did not plan on this life at all, right? Just make sure that I'm not making this up. This was not your plan.
How could it be? How is this?
Right.
How is this a situation that anyone could have imagined, prepared for, or wanted for that matter? I mean, even still, quite frankly, I've been so blessed, of course, by the grace of God and certainly with his favor. But even still, I find myself like, is this really what I want to be doing? Facing the backlash and the scrutiny that I do, traveling all over the place all the time, not getting to spend time at home with my family and my dogs and my husband and all the things. But I'll tell you what, it's even still, even with all of the negatives that come with it. Number one, the support is tenfold anything negative. The amount of people who reach out to me on a daily basis and just say thank you for doing what you do. You know, I've got a young daughter, whatever it is, they say, you
Yeah.
keep pushing forward because it's her you're fighting for. That alone makes it worth it. Um, but and I think that's what it's about too. I mentioned young daughter, right? I think it is about the next generation here. Having people like
Yes.
my younger sister, it makes it worth it 10 days out of 10 to do what I'm doing. So no, I didn't prepare for it. No, I didn't want it. I will say, I've always been a Christian. Number one, I've always been a conservative. Number two, but not tuned in enough to really know what was going on beyond the big topics of the day. I kind of just thought politics were up to like the old white men, and I just got to benefit or I guess not benefit from it.
Yeah.
But once I had the veil lifted from my eyes, how can you unsee it? How can
Right.
I felt so guilty, Joe. I felt so compelled. I felt responsible, for participating in the farce the way that I did, for even competing in the pool that day. I felt just as bad as the people who created and enforced these policies. Therefore, how in the world could I look myself in the mirror, continue on with the life that I had planned, and be satisfied? No way, I couldn't do it. I think largely to accredit my parents for raising me the way that they did, largely to accredit my faith, largely to accredit playing sports too. Being able to play and succeed and compete at the highest level, being team captain of my team, it teaches you that, I mean, you set goals and you work to achieve those goals, but also the bigger picture, how things matter than just you. Like that there are
Yeah.
bigger things than just you and your personal success. And that's how I view this fight.
So amazingly said. I got to tell you, it would be so much easier for you not to do this. Thank you for doing the hard thing because it does benefit all of us. I've got a granddaughter, you know, and she benefits from what you're doing. As I said, I've got 5 daughters of my own. You know, there are so many. There's another generation of girls coming up, going, "Do I have to compete against boys?" And then they're turning to you because you're sort of their safe place. This is somebody who did this from as young as you did, and I want to get into that in a second. When you started swimming, and then got in a pool with a 6'4" man who you had to dress and undress in front of, and he was just a guy who was saying he wasn't. What you went through, and the fact that you're able to have the backbone that you have to continue doing this and not go and be a quiet dentist somewhere, you know, taking care of the community as you would, because this is in your nature anyway. But you're taking care of us on a much larger scale. I'll tell the people watching and listening this. I texted you about a month ago, and we've been friends a long time. And you texted me back like a day later, and you said, "Sorry, I'm out of the country." I'm like, so has this gone international, Riley? Are you speaking to people in other places that are going, "Please give us the strength to understand why you're able to be so firm in this, why you're able to support girls and women like you do, and how do we push back here like you're pushing back there?" Is that what you were doing, or were you on vacation?
No, definitely. It has gone global. It has gone, it's been global, actually. We saw just a few weeks ago out of the UK where their Supreme Court issued a ruling saying that women are women and men are men, and you
Right.
can't become the other and vice versa. We see this happening all the time in Australia. Of course, Canada is a hot mess, everything that's going on there. So it has been global at this point. Um, but I think there's a good use in linking arms with those across the globe, being able to compare, contrast what we're seeing, because what we know to be true. I mean, let's look at England, for example. Again, my husband is British. He is from England. We've been over there several times to visit, and I will say, outside of this issue, it's changed a lot, even over the past 5 years. You know,
Oh,
you
yes.
compare I guess,
We all see
compare
the video. You know,
2025.
it's a very different place now. I'm with you.
Totally, but England, of course, is typically more progressive than the US. Well, just about a year ago at this point, the UK banned these surgeries and procedures and castrations and chemicals being administered to minors
Good.
over in the UK. So where typically they're more progressive than us, they're ahead of us on this issue. We have something to learn from them. What are they seeing that our healthcare providers, our insurance companies, our federal government under Joe Biden, that they're not seeing, or maybe that they do see that they're blatantly ignoring because they realize they can profit off of it, or whatever the motive is.
Right.
So being able to have access to that data, that information, it helps us in America as well.
Gains for Girls podcast over on Outkick. Go and check out everything Riley Gaines does. Follow her on TikTok, where she's now smoking me. I gotta raise my game. Go follow her on Instagram. Follow her on X. Let me ask you about social media, if you don't mind. And I do want to get into when you started swimming. 12-time All-American. It's funny. I saw some idiot last night on TikTok posted a video saying, "Oh, the problem is, Riley, you've never won anything, and Simone Biles won everything." I'm like, 12-time All-American. You literally tied Will Thomas in the pool that day, so you were first place in that, and you've won, innumerable. It's almost like what Keith Olbermann said once, and then you did that video showing all of your awards. So I want to ask you about how you came up, but social media squelched you for a long time. Like, you couldn't say anything. You weren't gaining anybody on TikTok because they shut everything down that you did. Now it's all getting out. Is the sea change in the public opinion on this issue, is that forcing social media to let you out?
No doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even start posting on TikTok. Oh, well, I tried, actually, to be fair, a few years ago. Every single video I posted got deleted within seconds. It was amazing.
Wow.
I was like, how are they monitoring this so closely to where my videos aren't even up legitimately, Joe, for 2 minutes before they're getting deleted?
That's
And
crazy.
then once you have a certain number deleted, you can't, your account will get banned altogether, which happened to me not too long ago. All the things that come with it. But now, in the year 2025, that's not happening, really. God bless Elon Musk for what he has done for free speech. I think the purchase of X was one of the most pivotal points, truthfully, over these past few years. Now Americans have access to real information, what is going on, and that's forced the hands of others, like TikTok, like Meta, because there is this outlet X that is doing so well. I think it's still number one in terms of the App Store ratings for where people access their news, whatever it is. They now realize they have to adapt with the times. They can't any longer get by with not only sharing half of the stories here, or only sharing a select group of information or creators who share this information. So God bless Elon Musk for that, because I certainly think that was a large part in why we're now seeing this turn from Meta. And Donald Trump, of course, has forced the hand of
Yes.
and been really helpful to TikTok. You think back to right around inauguration time when TikTok was set to be deleted or banned or whatever it was. But Donald Trump stepped in, he extended it for 90 days, and he's continued to advocate for free speech in this way.
Well, it's something that you probably know this, but if you don't, I'll say it anyway. And for those watching and listening, I'll say it. TikTok literally watches everything you do. They've got a person who is the Riley Gaines person. They've got the person who's the Joe Pags person. I know this because when I was live one night, and they alleged that I was talking about drugs and sex, which I don't do at all. And I made them show me the video where they actually banned it. There's a guy sitting there watching every live I do, knowing that I'm somebody who's flagged, watch this guy. And if there are enough reports through the AI, then they'll take it down. They literally stopped my live and banned me from doing live. They overturned it because it was stupid. I wasn't talking about what they said. But I think that you being a person who's stuck to it, your stick-to-itiveness has forced them to say, if we keep shutting her down, she's only going to post over on X. And everybody who loves her is going to go to X. So what you said makes a lot of sense. Instagram's the same way. Suddenly I'm getting 2 million views on Instagram, and so are you, when in the past we weren't getting that at all because we weren't saying what they wanted us to say. I mean, that whole thing has loosened up. But did you know that? You've got a specific team of people that say, oh, Riley Gaines is posting a video. Let's go watch it right now and decide if we want it on here. Did you know that was happening?
It's so Orwellian.
It is.
This whole idea of like Big Brother, right? Like that is it. Having someone on another side of a screen watching what you're posting, watching what you're doing, watching everything you like. That's how these algorithms get so tailored to what you enjoy, the content that you want to be watching. It's because someone on the other side is collecting all of this information. So I certainly understand the hesitations that mainly Republicans have with TikTok and especially with the whole influence of the Chinese Communist Party on this app and this platform. I understand those concerns. I think there are other concerns that are probably more severe, like like China buying U.S. farmland. What they've bought over 380,000 acres strategically placed next to 19 military bases. I think that's pretty concerning if we're going to talk about China. But nonetheless, I understand the concerns, but it is such a great space to reach young people, Joe.
It is.
I mean, you have a million. We both now have surpassed the million follower mark.
Right.
Think about how many stadiums of people that is. And I'll speak to my platform. Like I know my audience, my demographic is typically younger girls, high school age girls, maybe college age girls. If you can even think of, how many people does Nissan Stadium hold? Maybe close to 70-ish thousand.
Right.
I can't do that quick of math of a million divided by 70,000. But thinking of however many stadiums that is, 12-ish plus, no more than, maybe 13, 14 of stadiums where the Titans play. I'm from Nashville, where the Titans play, of young girls. Like, what an awesome visual that is to think of, and people you're able to reach with your commentary, with your reporting, with your guidance or advice. Like that's pretty powerful, and something that we shouldn't just so quickly turn away from.
Well, what I found, and by the way, she's the host of Gains for Girls podcast on Outkick. Go and check out Riley Gaines. Anything she does, make sure you check it out. Get her book also, Swimming Against the Current. What I thought to myself was, because I was going to do TikTok, and by the way, I got the million in less than 2 years. So I'm 58, conservative. I don't look like you. I'm not somebody that little girls can say, I want to be like that guy. I mean, you can in success maybe, but not in swimming in the pool and being athletic and everything else. But what I thought was there were 170 million Americans on TikTok. They can't all be liberal. They must want the truth. They must want somebody to advocate for what they believe in, and that's how you gain it. Plus, you're very stylish in how you do your videos. I do my best to yell, come on, at the end of my videos and whatever else. But we could have ignored the platform and allowed it to be a bastion and a cesspool of liberalism and progressivism and Marxism, or we can jump into the pool, literally and figuratively for you, jump into the pool and say, I'm here to compete too. I'm here to tell you there is another side that maybe you need. I'm guessing that's what you found as well. They find some sort of refuge in what it is that you do because you're not going with the party line. You're telling the truth and you can back it up.
It's an alternative. Yes. I understand, again, being a young girl in today's world, or a young person in general, okay? Like it's not easy. Being a conservative on a college campus, granted, again, this was in 2020, that era, it wasn't easy to have the viewpoints that I did and to feel comfortable saying them out loud, even at University of Kentucky, which most people probably wouldn't imagine as a very liberal institution. Understand every college campus, even I would say most Christian campuses, Christian colleges are trending that way, okay? It wasn't easy to say those things. But what I have found, what this fight really has proven to us, is that courage begets courage, that one person being willing to say something that maybe isn't viewed as politically correct, it allows another person to feel comfortable in saying it. It gives them the words to be able to use, the rebuttals that they need to be able to push back on those who will inevitably come for them. So I certainly agree with you. And that's what people tell me. It's not just me actually drawing that conclusion. I have people who message me every single day who say, thank you for doing what you're doing. You've given me the courage to write this essay in my college English course that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to write, or whatever it is. It is such an awesome way to be able to connect in a way that is personal, but without, of course, giving away too much of yourself or too much of your time. It's just being raw and authentic. And I think that's why people like Trump, right? It's why none of these celebrity endorsements worked for Kamala Harris. People don't want that anymore. People don't want someone who is sitting from their ivory towers telling them how to think, how to feel, how to breathe, how to live, the things to be outraged by. It's not the realities that people face. So to be able to, in some way, shape, or form, be that for someone else, is pretty cool, and something I'm really proud of, actually.
Your persistence and resilience is the example that young people need, both boys and girls, both women and men. They need that, and it's not only in the pool, it's not only in the tour that you're doing, it's not only in the podcast that's on Outkick, it's called Gains for Girls. It's also that you did not let TikTok shut you down. You didn't let Instagram shut you down. You didn't let society in 2020 shut you down. It's funny. You said in the 2020 era, it's 5 years ago. It feels like it's the same era, but you're right. It feels like it was 30 years ago. The sea change in public opinion has been monumental. And I think that you've been completely in the front of that. And I can't thank you enough for your advocacy out there for girls and women and for fairness in sports and in life, to be honest. Riley, give me a minute or so, if you don't mind. You're a little girl. When do you find out that you're a fish in the pool? When do you find out that you're kind of a badass and this is where you should be?
Well, I come from a family of athletes, Joe. So my dad played professional ball. He's an SEC Hall of Famer. He played football. My mom, she played softball at the Division I level. My oldest sister went to Ole Miss and she played softball. My brother's in college. He plays football now. My youngest sister, she's 16. She's a gymnast. She will go on to do, she's probably the best athlete out of all of us, to be fair. I'll send you a picture of what she looks like. She's 16 years old and she's jacked, Joe, like raging 12 pack. She is so strong. She's incredible is what she is. She'll go on to do incredible things. So all that to say, I come from a family of athletes. Therefore, we were forced to play sports, which is now probably some form of child abuse. If your parents
according to some.
Yes, and I'm so grateful mine did. My parents told me, doesn't matter what sport, but you have to play a sport. Did the typical thing of summer swim, right? Like those little silly summer swim leagues that a lot of kids do. Me and my siblings did it. The coaches noticed pretty on, like, hey, you have a natural affinity for this. You should really consider swimming year round. And so I did. Played softball, swimming pretty much all the way through high school, started getting recruited for both. And I knew I had to pick one. I chose swimming, and I will never forget my dad sitting me down. My dad, again, this big, manly football player, like pretty big guy. He used to be at least kind of muscular. Now I think he's kind of just fat, but big guy nonetheless. And he sat me down and he said, Riley, I have always said you have to play a sport. Swimming is not a sport. It's a hobby. And I said, Dad, how can you say that? I work so hard, it keeps me fit. It keeps me in shape. It keeps me out of trouble. And I will never forget this, Joe. And this kind of just explains who my dad is as a person. He says, well, Riley, any hobby where men are wearing panties, that is not a sport. And of course he's referring to Speedos that men wear. He has come a long, long way. Call it ignorance. But now, of course, he understands just how hard we work and just how grueling of a sport really it is. But you can imagine when I started dating a swimmer, which is now my husband, he didn't know anything about my husband. I told him, I'm dating a guy on the team at Kentucky. And he said, Riley, I don't know anything about him, but he's gay. I'm like, Dad, he's not gay. Well, if he voluntarily wears those panties, then he is. And now, of course, he loves my husband, but speaks to my very Southern dad.
Well, I got to tell you, I had a very New York dad, but the same ilk, cut from the same cloth. When I told him I was going to be on the radio and be on television, he said, you can't be on the radio and television. Go dig ditches, go dig foundations, go drive a truck. And I said, those are all great jobs, Dad. But I think I've got something that'll let me do this, or maybe play the saxophone or sing or whatever else I wanted to do. And he just kept saying, you can't do that. And when I started hitting it and started really getting where I was on television news and whatever else, and then Fox News started having me on, and then CNN and Headline News and everything else, my dad would text or call every relative we had and tell them, Joey's about to be on TV, turn on Fox. So as much as he was, you can never do it, you can never do it, you can never do it, I'm so proud of my son who's doing it. And I guess your father's old school too. He's like, okay, if you're a male swimmer, you're gay. If you're a female, you shouldn't be swimming. That's not a career. It's not a real sport. And then we just had to prove them wrong. I wonder, because your work ethic is very much like mine, I wonder if not for them being a bit negative and almost throwing the gauntlet down and challenging, I wonder if we would have succeeded like we have. I mean, I owe my father a lot. If he would have treated me with kid gloves, I might be, in mom's basement, being mean on the keyboard. Instead, I just try to achieve something every day. Do you feel the same thing? You almost had to have that little bit of negative, that little bit of you can't do it to prove that you can?
Look, I love that, Joe. I love someone telling me I can't do something. Maybe it's like the middle child in me. I've always been pretty defiant, whether it's in school, whether it's to my parents, whether it's to my coaches. I'm ashamed to say it, but there have been several times I can think of where they've said, you're not allowed to do this or you can't do this.
Right.
It's more of like, okay, watch me. Then I will do it
I love
actually,
it.
and I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think that speaks to the persistence that I had in my sport, of course. I was a closer. Oh, I swam the 200 fly, 200 freestyle, 200 fly, which is not an overly enjoyable event to most.
Right.
Most people typically, you're going to go out fast on the first 100 and you're going to die on that third 50 and try and bring it home with everything you've got on the last 2 laps. And I loved that third 50 where everyone else hurt, where everyone else felt pain. Oh, I embraced the pain. That was actually the time where I would kick it on. I loved it. And so I think that that same sense of resiliency has translated beyond, of course, athletics, which is why I'm the biggest proponent for girls playing sports, is because it taught me how to be the leader that I am now. And I accredit so much of that to my parents. I mean, they always taught me how to call out an injustice when I see it. My dad's got a pretty amazing story as well, just in the SEC world, where he was playing football and there was a long pass thrown to my dad. Player at Ole Miss tackles my dad in a manner where, of course, this was pre-targeting and all the things. Went pretty much with his head first. Ultimately, would become paralyzed and pass away following that hit.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's a horrific story, of course, tragic, but it's really a beautiful story of he lived for about maybe close to 6-ish months, close to a year following the hit. And in those 6 to 8 months, maybe him and my dad became best friends. It's this beautiful story of overcoming racial adversity or whatever those barriers are back in the
Right.
80s, again, where it's a very different time to now. And I think my dad's experience that he lived through, again, he taught me and all my siblings the lessons that he learned from that, how valuable life is, how you stand up for yourself, all the things, again, that I'm utilizing now. So very much a credit, a lot of my success or just who I am as a person to both my parents.
An amazing story. It's Riley Gaines. Go check out Gaines for Girls podcast on Outkick. Go there and check it out a couple of times a week, if not more than that. She drops some special editions as well. Go get the book. It's called Swimming Against the Current. Riley, thanks for all the time. Let me ask you one last question, then we'll let you get out of here. And I hope to see you this Saturday. Let's make that happen. How does this thing end? Do we get to a place to where we have a separate trans league and men compete against men and women compete against women, boys against boys, girls against girls? Because I often tell this story. I played baseball growing up. I was a catcher. And there was one girl on the Little League team one time, and she was good enough to make it. There were no boys that couldn't make the boys' teams that were trying out for softball. That was unheard of. Title IX came about when I was like in elementary school. So I believed in Title IX. It made sense. There should have been fairness for girls. Title IX doesn't mean anything if boys can compete against girls. But how does this end? Do we get to a place to where we completely stop this garbage that anybody who is a male chromosomally and DNA-wise competes against females? Are we getting close, do you think?
It's hard to say because, of course, we have an administration, at least at the federal level. So looking at any institution that receives federal funds, you have a president who has taken swift and decisive action in saying that we are not allowing this. Then, of course, you have the usual suspects, the bad actors like Gavin Newsom, like Governor Mills of Maine,
Right.
who have basically given Trump two middle fingers for that matter. And actually, they're not even giving Trump a middle finger. They're giving a bunch of little girls a middle finger, which is pretty sinister when you think about it, who have said, well, we're not going to abide by this. It's DOJ gets involved, the Department of Education gets involved, the Office of Civil Rights gets involved, but that's a very lengthy process where in the meantime, boys are still able to compete in girls' sports, which is, again, it's hard to gauge what the shelf life of this issue is. You have to imagine that in 2026, when the Democrats lose again resoundingly, because if they continue this, and again, in conjunction with the LA riots, in conjunction with their stance on mass deportations,
Right.
whatever it is, they will lose in 2026 if they continue. You would have to think that certainly then they would try and distance themselves from their voting records or recant from their previous positions.
Right.
I imagine that after the 24 election, that's not what we saw. So maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe that is giving these Democrats more credit than what is likely to happen. So we will see. But I think, again, in terms of the general public, not looking at this in terms of elected representation, we've had enough. It's really that simple. So we just need people to use their voices, coaches, parents, athletes, whatever, whoever you are. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, man, old, young, black, white, gay, straight. No identity factor matters. This affects all of humanity. Use your voice, say it's wrong, and do it with a nature that is unapologetic and emphatic in saying such.
I love it. It's Riley Gaines. Go and follow her everywhere. Go and check out the podcast, Gaines for Girls on Outkick. To that end, you and I talked about this a few times, and we agree that if girls stopped competing, then this would have to stop. Like the 52-year-old idiot in Canada identifying as a 13-year-old girl competing and allowing him to compete, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. So do we need to get to a point to where more girls like the fencer took a knee and said, I'm not going to compete against this guy? If everybody does that, sport will die or they have to fix it. Are we getting close to that?
I hope so. I think it's awful that girls, like, the onus has to be put on young girls for them to
I agree.
ultimately make that decision, but it is the most effective way to say enough is enough. No, I'm not going to participate in the farce, which easier said than done. Again, I wasn't willing to do it, Joe, when I was in that position because I knew how hard I worked. I knew
Yeah.
this was the culmination of my career. It was my last meet ever. It was our national championship. I wasn't willing to do it then, but had I known the trajectory of where we were going, or had I not been so naive to it, I guess, I wouldn't have gotten on the block that day because I now recognize that some things matter more than victory. And one of those is the idea that reality matters, that there is an objective truth. Safety, you have to worry about safety in some sports too. Like, we didn't necessarily have to in swimming. It's not like you're throwing bows at one another. But in a sport like volleyball, where we've seen boys give career-ending injuries, injuries to young girls, you have to worry about that. No one wants to be in a position where they're subjecting themselves to that.
Right.
So I've dubbed this movement as Project Boycott, with emphasis on the word boy, really highlighting
Smart.
just how powerful it is to stand down. And you can look at, it's not just this movement where boycotts have historically been notable and effective. I mean, look at people like Rosa Parks, right? That's exactly what she did. She said no, and look at the impact that she was able to have. So
You and I agree wholeheartedly. Gaines for Girls podcast and Outkick. It's our good friend Riley Gaines. I got to tell you, and I've told you this many times privately and probably on the show too, I could not be more proud of you. I feel like a father figure to you, although you've got a great dad, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, watching you flourish and watching you get the attention that's needed to bring attention to this issue and just seeing your rise, it makes me feel great. I'm super proud of you. Thanks for being such a great friend. I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully this coming weekend, and just keep on doing everything. And anything you need from me, I'm here. You know that.
I sure will. I sure will. You're the best, Joe. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go live on TikTok soon.
We
That's
have
the
to
next
do
thing.
that. Riley, if we joined our two audiences together, holy crap. That would be amazing. Let's definitely do that. Gaines for Girls podcast on Outkick. Get her book, Swimming Against the Current. She, of course, is the best-selling author, vice chair of the Athletes for America. It's our good friend Riley Gaines. Riley, thanks a million.
You're the best, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Another episode of Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags drops soon. We'll see you then.